Welcome to Embrace the Echo Grief Talks. I'm Stephanie.
And I am Shay. Today we have a special episode in honor of International Bereaved Mothers Day, which is on May the 5th. It is a day dedicated to honoring the strength and resilience of mothers who have experienced the loss of a child. I wanted to plug Step Forward Purple Heart Support Group. Mark your calendar for every third Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time and Saturday at 9 a.m. Manila time of each month. And let Purple Heart Grief Support Group be your beacon of light on the path to healing. For more information and to join our upcoming session, you can email UDRiVe group and register by clicking the link in the description below.
As bereaved mothers ourselves, we understand the profound and often overwhelming journey of navigating motherhood after loss. Today, we invite you to join us as we share our own experiences, challenges, and reflections on this journey.
Through candid conversations and heartfelt stories, we aim to celebrate the love we hold for our children who are no longer present, while also shedding light on the resilience and hope that accompany us as we navigate the depths of our grief.
So join us as we honor the remarkable strength and unwavering love of bereaved mothers around the world on this special day. So let's begin.
As we enter the month of May, we know that Mother's Day is around the corner, which is usually celebrated and observed on the second Sunday of May. But in this episode, we speak for those bereaved mothers and honoring them today. We get that it hurts, and we feel your aching heart, the unimaginable pain from the loss of losing a child, as well as to those who's experiencing pregnancy and infant loss and infertility.
Did you know that International Bereaved Mothers Day was started by Carly Marie Dudley, an Australian artist, writer, and an advocate for grieving parents? Carly Marie found the day in 2010 to honor and acknowledge mothers who have experienced the loss of a child. She herself experienced a devastating loss of her stillborn son, Christian, and has since become a prominent figure in the bereavement community, offering support, resources, and advocacy for grieving parents around the world. International Bereaved Mothers Day is observed annually on the first Sunday of May, providing a dedicated time for mothers to come together, share their stories, and find comfort and support in their grief journeys.
Thank you for that information, Ate Steph. I think personally, I appreciate that there is such a specific date to recognize bereaved mothers. As for me, who have lost my twin boys during my second trimester pregnancy in February and March, it was my first pregnancy where I had hoped to celebrate the traditional Mother's Day. But because the outcome was different, I appreciated that there was a separate recognition for us bereaved mothers, as I've honestly dreaded the actual day of Mother's Day. As you know, I struggled a lot with this clearly. But let's dive into our conversation today and let's share some insights as to what are the challenges that we encountered after the loss of our children. We'd like to explore on the profound grief and resilience of Ate Stephanie, who has endured multiple losses. Not only did she lose her firstborn born son, but she also lost her husband in a tragic accident, leaving her to navigate the depths of grief while shouldering the responsibilities of both mother and father to her surviving children. And through her story, we'll explore the challenges she faced in navigating her grief while striving to care for her living children, standing as their sole source of love and support in the wake of such profound loss. We've prepared some questions for Ate Steph for this segment. Let's start off with balancing grief with parenting. So, Ate Steph, how do you navigate the delicate balance between grieving the loss of one child while still being present for your living children, Z and Julia?
Well, what I've actually prioritized so much now is, well, as always, is much care towards my kids. Like we all should have good rest, good food. Evidently, we love food. So yes, I've prioritized good bonding times, quality time, meaningful efforts. We have a very, very honest and open communication, the three of us. I've always prioritized a lot of care and understanding towards my girls. I always make it a point that in the midst of the pain I go through, and having both of them, I always want them to see the fun and happy sides of life because they deserve to know that life doesn't have to be lived in all that pain. So, yes, we have a lot of good times together. We share uh, very good open communication. My kids and I were just so open that even some people think that it's amazing how we have that type of relationship because not every parent and child would have that relationship. And some of their friends would even say that it would really be nice if, yeah, parents could be as cool as that. But then again, it's different for everyone. And but for me, because of that depth of pain, I have a different way of understanding that there still can be joy for the sake of my kids, most especially. And we have that safe space among the three of us. And I think things shape up because of that. And I always try to make them understand and always remember that despite the bad things that happen in life, there's always something good to look forward to. And we have this very wide range of empathy for each other. We're very unconditional in understanding and loving one another, in despite our differences, because I am no perfect parent. It has to be that very unconditional kind of love.
Thanks for sharing, Ate. You said something about that you guys have this open communication, amongst the three of you, spending the quality time and really prioritizing and really understanding them as your children, right? In a way, I can also relate because my mom and I also has that open communication. We're also cool. Like, I it's just nice to hear, and then I can definitely relate. Sometimes we would go out and people would think like, oh, we thought you're siblings.
Right, right.
They wouldn't think that that's like a mother parent, mother and child type of relationship. It's more like, no, we're just equals, right? But I mean, ultimately, that relationship is really beautiful because, again, as we get older, as being the child, and when we become an adult, having that adult child and the adult parent having that bond, I think that's really, really important to have that open communication, and really understanding that at the end of the day, your daughters has that their own path in their life, and you being their parent,
Right.
um, is still there, that you can be their friend, that you can be their parent still at the same time. And I think that just foster more trust and safety, like you said. There's a safe space among the three of you when you guys are together. So that's really beautiful. That's Thank
Yeah.
you for sharing that. Okay, thanks for answering that question, at the Steph. So let's move on to the next part of the question. So this is parenting through grief triggers. So how do you handle moments when grief is triggered unexpectedly while caring for your living children? What strategies do you use to manage your emotions in these situations?
I acknowledge my feelings, especially now
Mhm.
that my kids are all grown up and that they understand me and the situation that it is, which helps very much compared to how it was before when they were younger. I take a moment for myself to relax and process my emotions, then get back to the kids. Once I kind of sort of regulate myself, because sometimes I have this tendency when I am dysregulated. I don't know why, but I'm picturing like a Hulk. When things just go south on my thoughts, sometimes my reaction, I just go totally Hulk thing. But once I calm down, I try to go away for a while, relax, and since I don't want to trigger anything that may affect our relationship, then when I'm ready, I go sit and talk with them. I say this in the past year, like only a year ago, um, I've decided it's time to face that grief and loss. I think I've shared it even in the previous um, podcast that we've had. It's only now that I'm starting to unfold what it's been for me in those past years, because now that my kids are grown up, it just makes a difference and they totally get it now when I'm honest to tell them what it's been like. And due to my past painful learning growing up and the tragic loss of my husband and son, there have been things that I've held back. And then seeing my psychiatrists go through therapy, we go through therapy, I get treated, and um, from one mental issue to another, and it's just led to complex post traumatic stress disorder. It's brought me a compassion to know more about this, to understand more why I am like this, why I feel this way, why do I react this way. And I'm really thankful because now that my kids are older, it's easier for them to grasp and understand and make sense, and so now that it's just gotten clearer through the trauma informed lens, I now appreciate the time that I have to reflect on my own loss, my own reactions. I've learned a lot with tools for hope. A lot of things have just changed, and yeah, it just, I don't know what I'm saying. Hang on.
Breathe.
So yeah, now I just incorporate mindfulness, intentionality, and the way it is for me and the kids now. All these strategies that we do, that I've learned and that we do and that we implement, makes things a lot easier. So that's that.
Thank you. At the Steph, you mentioned something about how whenever you feel triggered, you described it when you feel like you're getting down south, like the Hulk. You create that space, and I think that recognizing and pulling away yourself in that situation where you can take the time to regulate yourself, being more mindful of
Mm.
um, what emotion, whatever it is that triggered you, or whatever emotions that you were going through at that time. And I think that's the key. I'm glad that you're able to recognize that now, and really understanding the source of that trigger, being aware of that triggers, or and even just really identifying what that emotion is. We can find ways to cope better, right?
Mm-hmm.
And be more intentional when we go back to a situation, in your case, going back to regroup with your children, to respond in a way that's more intentional, so that
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to hurt them or affect them in a way that's things that has hurt you, and you end up saying hurtful things to them, right?
Yes,
I
yes.
can understand how parents can be sometimes so sobrang galit, or whatever that is, even not just like grief alone, but like there are some things that I know my that would trigger my parents. I remember as a child,
Right.
growing up, like there was something, and I was like, okay, when in the peak of that moment, if I'm there, I would either get like I don't know, whatever they pick, a slipper or something, or hanger, exactly, or even the walis. And I know that that's coming, or it's like, oh, something must have upset my mom or something. It's like I
Yeah.
know that I'm gonna run, but like you said, you recognize that okay, I'm angry or whatever it is that triggered you, to create that space. Because again,
Yeah.
who would want to hurt a child? But I think at the end of the day, knowing what we know now, or knowing what you know now, definitely has is helping you. And again, it's never too late. It's never too
Right.
late. So
Right.
thank you for sharing. I just really like that. So let's move on with communication
Yes.
with children. So how do you communicate about grief and loss with your living children? Do you have age appropriate conversations with them? And if so, how do you approach these discussions?
I really like this question because as stubborn as I am, whether as a child myself before, I truly value parental guidance. And in a way, talking about grief and loss, it was really, really hard for me in the beginning because there I was concentrating on what I felt, how it made me feel. But at the same time, I had to see my 3-year-old daughter and 1-year-old daughter running around, putting makeup on, not even really knowing what it was I was going through and how I could ever explain to them at that age, how to explain grief to kids that age. I like that it's mentioned here about having age appropriate conversations because I think it's ideal that there are things at a certain age that you share to your children, especially loss. It could be anything, but yeah, we're talking about loss now. And with the kids, even in the past episode that we did, Julia even mentioned that she was 19 years old when I showed her the raw footage of the car crash. I was very consistent to tell them as they were growing up, like, we had a car accident. Sometimes I would even, we had a car accident. I'd be very animated because they were so young.
Mhm.
And I was consistent with that story. I never hid the realness of losing their dad and their brother.
Mhm.
But as they grew up, it I had my way of explaining it. There was even a point that Julia, because she was only one when we lost Carlos and Vincent, she actually even told me that she thought I was like the Virgin Mary, where I could just have kids without having a partner, kind of thing. Like, I conceived Z and Julia, but yeah, I don't have a partner. She thought that could happen, literally, and I had to explain. And as naive as children could be, it's also very a big responsibility on how parents should actually communicate to their
Mhm.
children. And I've been very, very mindful towards that. Yet then again, I'm not proud of the way I cope, but I never neglected the responsibility. I never stood down from the responsibility it was of being a mother to the kids and how to explain to them what happened to us. And the reason why I even kept that video, because I knew as young as they were, when they get to a certain age, they'd ask questions.
Mhm.
And so I kept that video waiting for the right time. And since then that I started sharing with them, the three of us actually went through a grieving process. It affected the kids' decision making, what course to take in college, and then things happened with Z during college, and me starting to, how it is when you try to cover up your grief, no matter how long it takes, these things start to come up, right? And so there have been moments in time where I was very vulnerable, and yeah, that affected the kids as well. And Z got to a depressive state. Julia came into a very confused state.
Mhm.
But then again, we were very open, and we were one thing I really like about the kids is we were not scared to tell each other where we went wrong,
Mhm.
and we were very compassionate about understanding why we had to do things the way we did. And so yeah, communication is important, and yeah, talking about it at certain different levels of age come different as well. So yeah, I love that question because it's very real. It was very hard.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for sharing that. No, so I understand because of the when the loss happened, they were really young. So I really like to kind of point out the age appropriate conversations with them, as I know with our previous episode. Um, you know, you mentioned Julia had to she seen the raw footage at age 19, right? But you were consistent. You said like as they were growing up, you keep saying there, you guys there was this car accident, and it was the truth. It was a
Yeah.
true story, right? And yeah, it's just really keeping that open communication in a way. I can only see this again as a child myself, as a person. I know that um, I'm being told in a way that these are the truths. Then I can be safe with that person to open up, right?
Mm.
And it's okay, and it's okay to express these like concerns or just conversations that most parent and child um, conversation, kind of breaking that stigma.
Yeah.
Kasi nga, di ba, like some growing up, I never really had that parang very close conversation. So you're always the child. You always look up to the parent as they're they know better. I respect you for all the things that you, so I just whatever that was told and whatever we were shown to us, all I know is that they did their best. But knowing what I know now, I can be that adult person that I can pick up and be a better parent,
Yes.
moving forward or later on or whatnot. So let's move on to the fourth question: seeking support as a parent. What resources or support networks have been helpful to you as a bereaved mother with living children? And how do you find time for self care and support while also fulfilling your parenting responsibilities?
So yeah, I'm really thankful for family because such as my dad, my father-in-law, my 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 brothers-in-law, they have actually contributed to being a father figure as my kids grew up. You know, that picture of having them around gave me that sense and gave that feeling towards the kids that no matter what, they'll always be there. That gave me very good support, a good feeling. And then apart from that, of course, like I said earlier, I did do my therapies for my depression and other issues mentally, emotionally. um I'd have some good couple friends, some couples that I've also met in church, and they've actually given me some light before when it was kind of dark for me, and I'm grateful for that. And when it comes to self care, I don't know, I'm just so in love with my kids to share this, but our relationship, Z, Julia, and I don't know, we're like soul sisters. We're best friends. We're like, even if I have to think of self care for me, if I want to go spoil myself in the salon or um, pamper myself or anything, we do it together. We actually have fun finding um, running shoes together. Not that I run, because yeah, I can't and I don't. But walking, there was a point in time we decided we wanted to go walking because it was healthy for me and in my um, health conditions, and everything to do with my parenting with my kids. Ever since, I don't know, it's just been so easy because my kids are just the best things, to be honest. And um, that's one thing I wish for parents to have with their kids. I wish that everybody had that kind of relationship because everything falls into place. Everything seems meaningful and purposeful when there's that certain kind of understanding between each other. And yeah, we just did a lot of things together with the kids, and it's made a difference for me now that they're older and me facing all the levels of grief that I've had to go through. So,
My wish is the same, to have, you know, parents and children would have that strong bond as well. And again, not everyone is the same, but again, we that's all we can hope for, right? Because we, like in your case, you can see the beauty of having to have that strong bond and connection and trust, and sense of safety, attachment, right? So I really commend you for taking this time to share those parts of you and really navigating your grief journey with your children as you try to parent them as well. So it's not easy. And kudos to you, Ate Steph.
thank you, thank you. For our second segment, we will have Shay with us to interview next. as she shares the challenges she faced after the heartbreaking loss of her twin boys during the second trimester of her pregnancy. Shay's journey is one of profound grief, resilience, and unwavering hope. As she navigates the depths of her sorrow, she also grapples with the ongoing challenges of infertility and challenging her vision of motherhood in ways she never imagined. So, Shay, for the first question, can you share with us how you initially coped with the devastating loss of your twin boys during the second trimester of your pregnancy?
First of all, I just wanted to say how, grateful I am, having the privilege to be able to take some time off work. 8 months is a long time to really focus on my grieving and myself. Um, I was an emotional griever. During the first week or two, I had no words to verbalize things that happened. It was mainly overwhelming thoughts, questions, full of tears, and really just a lot of heartache.
Mm.
But I do have a small notebook, a black notebook. This notebook was given to me by JB. He gave this to me while I was still in the hospital. I like to write events of what happened during my hospitalization. So technically, I was still writing my own progress notes and own documentation as a patient in the hospital. So documenting what's happening. The first night that I was admitted to the hospital, I had to go through labor to give birth to Gio, as he pretty much died in the utero. So documenting and journaling on this small black notebook of what happened after I birthed him was my initial way of coping, even during my hospital stay. It was all about what had occurred on the day-to-day basis, objectively, sign and symptoms, names of doctors, nurses, spiritual counselors, and the housekeeper. Even I made friends with them, who was with me on that day. I've really written down all those people that came in to visit me. So if you can imagine, I was still pretty much, I guess I was so used to documenting things because of in my work profession. But after leaving the hospital, I was very overwhelmed emotionally that I still could not verbalize things. All I had was tears, just never ending tears. If I had to speak words, it was just their names, Gio and Joshua, and recalling what they were like in the womb, their character, their physical body, the surreal reality of the loss, the void, right? So it was just really allowing myself to feel what felt right at that time. And it was mostly done in isolation. So I did feel very lonely, especially before I started to seek out professional help and attending support groups. But knowing what I know now, it was what I needed to do to survive, to isolate myself from all the pain, right? So it looked like shutting the world around me. It went inwards. I really went inwards. There was a lot of things that was going on internally that I had to process, because not only that I felt unsafe around other people, but I was also unsafe within my physical body. So in a way, I had to process all of that internally. So yeah, that was I would say how I initially coped after the loss.
I can only imagine what that must have been like for you, and I could just also imagine how profoundly that impacted your sense of identity as a
Mhm.
mother.
Mhm.
Can you describe how you grappled with this loss of identity and the challenges it was presented?
So, with regards to loss of identity, this is one of the huge struggle that I had to face. Like I said, because prior to our losses, I had hoped and dreamed of what my motherhood could look like, right? I had expectations and visions of what I hope would look like for me, let alone having to expect twins when we found out we were having two. So, me being the ambitious person that I am, I would do anything in my power to make that happen. But life taught me something else. And when the outcome was different, losing the twins, of course, I was so disappointed and angry. You can only imagine that attachment that I had with that vision of motherhood. That was totally shattered. So that's one of the challenges that I had. So I started to question myself. Am I considered a mother? Because prior to that, I had envisioned myself having to, kind of nurture my own infant biologically. That's what I was hoping for. I don't have my babies here physically. Was it my fault? Did I not take care of myself? Or perhaps I did not listen to what my mom told me and JV to stop working because maybe I was working too much. With all these questions in my mind, I struggled with feeling, inadequate, feeling like I have failed as a person to carry my boys to full term. Will I ever fulfill my desire to become a parent, a mother? That's like a question that's still like
Right.
there. So some of the challenges, sometimes I would get asked by a client or anyone, by random person, do you have any children? The first time I was asked this after our losses, I was so conflicted. Like I didn't know whether to say yes or no. So my answer would likely be yes. For sure, I know that they were here, but they are
Mm-hmm.
not. So very conflicting. And then I would go on and explain what happened. And then, but if people ask me now, it's simply a yes. Deep inside, I know it's a yes. Yes, I have children because I carry them. So I know for myself that I have them, that I have children. And sometimes the conversation may go further and sometimes they don't.
Right.
So, so I take it as it comes when people ask me if I have any children, right? Because I feel like depending on the person that who the person that asks, sometimes
Mm-hmm.
they don't need to know all these details. Um, I don't get bothered by it used to because I know that God chose me to be their earthside mother, in this life, and that alone um is enough, and I'm grateful for it. So that's all I can say about that.
Thank you for sharing that. That was a lot for you to share. I'm sure the next question is about the challenges with infertility. How has the uncertainty and disappointment of infertility affected your mental and emotional well being?
So first of all, it's important to recognize that for someone who's going through fertility treatment since 2016, again, almost a 10-year process, and an ongoing challenge with fertility treatments, this is a very emotional, mentally and physically taxing process. The time, the money, the physical efforts to tend to these appointments, it definitely took a toll on me. um and since we were able to feel the slightest sense of hope when we conceived Gio and Josh after 4 attempts of IUI. If you don't know what IUI, it's an intrauterine insemination. So it's a totally different it's a totally different path now, right? Having to go through all those processes multiple times, and having to see a failed attempt and then negative pregnancy test one after the other, it's just not the same anymore. I don't have the same excitement as I would have prior to our losses. Yung excitement and hope was pretty much somehow replaced by anxiety and fear of what
Mm,
would happen, of the unknown, right? So definitely within the first year or two, that was something I struggled a lot. As you can imagine, that each failed attempt or negative pregnancy test can trigger that
mm-hmm.
feeling sense of sadness, that disappointment, in the more in mourning the loss of the dream of, am I going to be ever a biological parent to in the future, right? So things are just not the same. It's the current terrain that I'm in right now. I'm still navigating it as we speak, and it's not easy. It's an ongoing journey. I try to just be in the moment and really getting a good sense of awareness as to what and when my body is ready to even go through the cycle once again.
Mm.
So, but in honesty, though, I tell myself how grateful I am from having to experience such pure love and soul, in having to carry Gio and Josh, even in a short period of time. So, whether we are blessed with a rainbow baby or not, I will accept it. I know deep down inside, I will just be grateful for whatever is given. The thing with pregnancy loss is that no other baby can replace that love that I felt from the twins.
Right.
We don't just say, oh, just adopt or just try again. The grief will always be there. They are unique on their own, and that when time comes, God willing, when time comes when we are blessed with one, I will just be grateful, no matter and however form that may come. So yeah, that's my that's
So yes, we shall continue to look forward to that.
I'll definitely let you know. It's an ongoing process, like I said. Yeah, and things are changing. Things are changing. I feel like in the work that I do now, redefining motherhood is, I know, for another episode, but things are changing, and this is some things that we don't know what's gonna happen in the future. But
Mm-hmm.
all I know at this time and space is that I feel content and happy right now.
Important, and that's what matters. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing again, Shay. And for the next question, navigating motherhood expectations. Have your expectations or hope for motherhood shifted as a result of your experiences?
Yes, for sure. Whenever I think of what could happen in the future and when it worries me, I remember to shift myself back into the present, to what I have now. And of course, it requires validating and affirming myself that we are, um, in the present moment where things may have happened in the past. I'm on a different path now, and challenging my perspective and expectation of motherhood has shifted in a way that helps me cope and
Mm.
integrate my losses and still be present to the people that I'm surrounded with. My dog. I have Coco that I still care for, and my first fur baby. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Family and friends, colleagues, coworkers, and you guys, the UDRiVe family. To be able to see the beauty in the short moments of when I've carried Gio and Josh, and to continue to honor and keep them in my heart, integrating their lives with mine through acts of kindness, service to others,
Mm-hmm.
doing things that are meaningful and fulfilling. I've actually discovered this, that my love language is a service to others.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can resonate to that. Yeah.
Yeah. I just wanted to add how understanding that motherhood is not a one size fits all experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
There
Mm-hmm.
are various paths to motherhood, including, like I said, biological motherhood, which is the traditional one, adoption, fostering, surrogacy, and more, right? Nowadays, family structures are changing and very dynamic. Each journey is unique and very individual, and all should be valued and respected as well. So, however that looked like for that person, it's
Mm-hmm.
important that we recognize the societal expectations, which can impact one's view of that motherhood. So I understand that pressure, being the millennial that I am in now. We are the within that adult stage where,
Right.
our parents and the titas, titos, or maybe expecting, like, hey, come on, you're almost 40, like, what's happening, kind of thing, right? So, but no, like I said, I stay with my own path, and as much as sometimes it can be pressuring and it's hard to hear those comments, side comments from other people. I need a blinder. Alam mo yun, yung way you put
Right.
it. So, like, I'm gonna stay in my path. I'm not
Right.
gonna on yours. I'll just focus on my own journey and yeah, just continuing with the journey moving forward.
And that is also where our last question for you points out. It's about the hope and resilience. Despite the challenges you faced, where do you find moments of hope and resilience in your journey?
So moments of hope, can be found whenever I live in the moment. This I learned, and I'm really sticking to it, and it also helps with the things that we learn from Coach Boy, the tools for hope, self-regulation. It really helps bring us in the present moment. Other philosophies that really um, make sense of things. Whatever you do in the moment can actually change your path to the future, right?
Mm,
And sometimes when we are caught in the presence of anxiety or depression, that when you're anxious, that means you're worried about the future. When you're depressed, you're stuck in the past.
mm,
So when I'm caught in between those two, which can sometimes happen, feeling anxious about what's gonna happen and feeling like I don't want to move forward, I'm just like gonna stay here, or like kind of just staying in the past, we can't move. So when that happens, what's in between? It's the now. It's right now, right? So whenever I live in the present moment, I can be grateful for the things that had happened. And although grief will remain, so is my love for them, and it just translates into giving that love towards myself and to those people that surrounds me. Do the act of kindness and an act of nurturing by giving back to the community, doing things that is fulfilling and living life with more meaning and purpose. So to build that resilience for me is somehow using these challenges or setbacks and failure to see an opportunity, to see this as an opportunity for self-growth, ongoing learning and adapting with the ever-changing nature of life, which we know it's inevitable, it's to be expected.
yes, yes.
I'm able to explore parts of myself I did not know exist. And I'm still trying to brave the unknown. Currently, not
Yeah.
easy, but with grace and courage, I'm able to push through somehow.
I
And
feel I
yeah,
feel very blessed, Shay, to be in these moments with you. I feel blessed that I have connected with you. And yes, I really love your thoughts, your reflections, and all the insights. And yeah, thank you for sharing. So, as we come to end today's episode of Embrace the Echo Grief Talks, we want to express our deepest gratitude to our listeners and viewers for joining us on this heartfelt conversation.
indeed, it has been a profound experience sharing our stories of loss, grief, and resilience with you all. We hope that our openness and vulnerability have provided comfort and solace to those who may be experiencing similar challenges.
So, facing the out of order loss of our children has brought immense challenges in our day to day lives. Yet, through our continued search for meaning and purpose, we've discovered a reservoir of strength within ourselves that we never knew existed.
And in sharing our journeys, we've not only given voice to our own experiences, but also offered hope to others who may be navigating similar paths of grief and loss.
So, as we close this episode, we want to remind you that you are not alone in your grief. Reach out to your loved ones, seek support from your community, and know that there is hope and healing on the horizon.
And thank you once again for joining us on this special episode in remembrance of International Bereaved Mothers Day. Until next time, may you find peace, comfort, and resilience in your journey through grief. This is Shay, and with Ate Stephanie signing off from Embrace the Echo Grief Talks. Bye.
Bye.